Ah, hooray, everyone. We're going back to the Powell estate again for the 5th time this year. Everyone's favourite place. Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Mr. TARDIS, and as you can probably tell by my enthusiastic opener, I don't have the highest expectations for 13 o'clock. Not necessarily because I don't like the Ninth Doctor or Rose or even writer Robert Valentine. I love Robert Valentine. The guy's been on a bit of a hot streak over the past couple of months, but when it was announced that the Ninth Doctor adventures were coming back and it'd be pairing up with Billy Piper and they'd be going on more adventures throughout time and space, I didn't expect the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of their adventures to be set in the bloody Powell estate, and quite frankly, I'm sick of it. There's a reason why the high benchmark for this part of the range so far is Cloud 8 by Laura Mooney and Stuart Pringle, where they got the heck out of there. But anyway, the ending of the last story, Pandemonium, had the Ninth Doctor and Rose discover actually there's some sort of link that keeps on bringing us back to the Powell estate all of the time. And now 13 O'Clock, written by Robert Valentine, basically acts as a finale, as a climax to the Powell estate arc. And because I'm a few months late reviewing this story, I already know that the upcoming stories, they're actually more spacefaring, that they get off world a bit more, or at least they go away from the bloody Powell estate. So yeah, 13 O'Clock is indeed something akin to like a mid-series finale. But not only that, and I didn't realise this going into it, but 13 O'Clock acts as a sequel to a story that came out over 4 years ago, from the Ninth Doctor Adventures Back to Earth box set, Station to Station by Robert Valentine. This was a story that I avidly remember listening to, not just because I thought it was a really great story, but because I listened to this while I was on the plane going to my honeymoon. This was before Ncuti Gatwa was announced as the 15th Doctor, before it was announced that David Tennant and Catherine Tate were coming back for 60th anniversary specials. That's how long ago this was in the grand scheme of things. So this story, Station to Station, featured the Ninth Doctor travelling alone and meeting up with Saffron Windrose, played by Indigo Griffiths, as they're on a railway station called Underbridge, and Saffron is basically caught between two places. In Station to Station, she's in the closet, and she's either going to take the train to see her girlfriend, or she's going to take the train home to her homophobic parents and stay in the closet. And they encounter a supernatural enemy called the Griminy Gru, this Rumpelstiltskin-esque creature, and it's a really strong metaphor for the different phases of your life, and the Underbridge railway station is basically this transition point in the life of Saffron, and also it's a transition point in the life of the Doctor, where he's trying to become more comfortable in his skin after what happened in the Time War. And also many of the characters in Station to Station, they have been there for so long that they've lost their own identity. One character, I believe, is the station master. He only has his title now because he's been at the station for so long, he's lost his sense of self, and that's what's going to happen to Saffron. It's a really strong story when it comes to theming and metaphor, and it's a really great character piece that's also genuinely quite creepy and scary. How does 13 O'Clock compare? This takes place several years after Station to Station from Saffron's perspective, where after the events of the story, she understandably believes in the supernatural now. She's seeking out the Ninth Doctor after seeing a news report of a spaceship crashing into Big Ben and seeing the Ninth Doctor on TV. She knows where to go, so she hunts the Doctor to the Powell estate. However, the Powell estate is now in the same situation as the Underbridge railway station was, and it's covered in mist and it's covered in fog, and the Ninth Doctor has to have a rematch with the Griminy Gru, played by Dan Starkey, but also they have to contend with his minion, his underling, Mrs. Crook, who lives at flat number 13. It turns out that the Griminy Gru is not just this malevolent power that has corrupted the Powell estate, but it is also the reason that the Ninth Doctor and Rose keep on coming back to this setting, because the Griminy Gru has a score to settle with this incarnation of the Doctor, and has a very specific fate in mind.
Hi.
Saffron?
Hello, Doctor. I knew I'd find you.
Saffron?
Yeah.
Saffron Windrose?
Yeah, it's me.
Ha, what are you doing here?
Oh, take a big, fat, scary guess. Same thing as you, obviously.
Doctor, would you mind,
Oh, sorry. Yeah. Saffron, this is Rose. Rose, this is...
Saffron Windrose. Yeah, you keep saying her name. Hi.
Hi, you okay?
I'd be happier with some answers.
You're still not giving those?
I explain things eventually. It's good to see you, Saffron. I mean, not under these circumstances, but still, it's good to see you. How's, Erin? It was Erin, right?
That's right, Erin, she's fine.
You two still engaged?
Yeah, we're working on that. We have a dog.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
Explanations? Anyone?
Oh, right, yeah. Doctor, you may have noticed, it's happening again.
When I realised that 13 O'Clock was a sequel to Station, I just assumed that Robert Valentine was given free rein and was like, yeah, we'll tell whatever story you want with the Ninth Doctor. And he thought, oh, I'll bring back these characters from this story 4 years ago. But no, apparently Robert Valentine was told, we're bringing back the Griminy Gru and we're bringing back Saffron. So do you want to tell this story? Do you want to write it? And Robert Valentine, having understandable ownership of the characters, thought, yeah, I'll give it a crack. I think that 13 O'Clock is a decent story with a killer ending, but it's just not nearly as strong as Station. The theming, the subtext that's at the heart of Station, and what makes Saffron as an interesting character and the Grimly Gru an intimidating villain, it's just not present in 13 O'Clock. Part of that is because of the setting of the Powell estate, where you have this railway station in Station that acts as this metaphor of these different stations between life, but the Powell estate doesn't really have a similar metaphor with it. In fact, what 13 O'Clock seems to be going for is this idea of people being abandoned and people being forgotten in these estates, which you have a character called Milton, played by Will Chitty, who lives in Flat 4, who's basically the obligatory red shirt of the story, and I understand that's what 13 O'Clock is going for, but it seems to be at odds with the other Powell estate stories, where it's trying to emphasize the idea of community and people making the most of these situations and people finding real heart and love and joy in a setting that's otherwise been neglected by the rest of society. I'm not saying that these stories can have only one type of theme, but 13 O'Clock is taking a very different view from the rest of the stories in this series, and I think that's because they've been forced to do that because the Griminy Gru is the villain. I think they've tried really hard to make the square peg fit into the round hole. They've made it work with enough hammer blows, but did you need to do that? Couldn't you have just put the square peg in the square hole? I think you've overthought this a bit. It's great that Indigo Griffiths is back as Saffron Windrose. I think that she plays this role really well, and she's got a great dynamic and chemistry with Christopher Eccleston and Billie Piper, but Saffron in this setting is just not nearly as interesting a character. I think that part of that is because she has progressed since Station. She's way more comfortable in herself, and that actually makes for a really good character beat in the third act when the Griminy Gru tries to undermine her identity and make her feel like she's not loved, and Saffron is like, no, I'm awesome, screw you. And I think that's a really great moment, but then it's like, okay, apart from this being a sequel, what are you doing here then? There is a little bit of conflict between Saffron and Rose, kind of like a precursor to what we see in The Parting of the Ways with Linda with a Y, and also School Reunion with Sarah Jane Smith. But honestly, the way the story plays out and the way that Rose approaches Saffron when she gets to know her, okay, why did you have an issue with Linda then, if this is the approach you're going to take? Why on earth do you have an issue with Sarah Jane if this is the approach you're going to take to Saffron? Once again, making this a sequel to Station, and not even just that, because reintroducing Saffron in this context, square peg round hole, they don't really fit. It seems that Robert Valentine is having way more fun with the new villain of this story, the underling of the Griminy Gru, Mrs. Crook, played by Sophie Thompson. Sophie Thompson doesn't get to play villains that often, so you can tell that she's really relishing this opportunity to do it. She's the really scary character in this story. She's the really intimidating one. Credit where it's due, 13 O'Clock does a great job with its sound design and its soundscapes and its music at really developing this really thick layer of atmosphere. You can really feel the fog that's encompassing this setting. You can feel the desperation, and also the voice acting from Christopher Eccleston here. You can feel the fear in his voice. Once he sort of starts thinking, is this the fucking Griminy Gru? Yeah, it scares him. It gets under his skin. He barely survived his last encounter with this supernatural creature, and now it's back. And not only that, it's back while he has Rose, someone who he has to look out for and be accountable for. So how the hell is he going to deal with this? And I think that the reason that the Griminy Gru has come back, the reason it's specifically after revenge with the Ninth Doctor, why it's brought him back to this setting over and over again for this big climactic showdown, the reason it's done that is actually genuinely really effective and compelling. It goes right back to the themes of this Doctor that has been laid out since Rose back in 2005, when Clive in his shed is talking about how the Doctor's main constant companion is death, and the Ninth Doctor is coming to terms with that here. Really, really effective stuff, and that is the stuff that makes this as a worthwhile sequel to Station. Just the Griminy Gru itself as a character coming back for revenge on the Doctor, and how it's going through that, and also how it's able to leverage the Ninth Doctor's relationship with Rose to fulfill its mission. Also, a really great narrative sleight of hand there. I think Robert Valentine has genuinely really thought about the application of character in 13 O'Clock. I just don't think it works in and of itself as a sequel to Station, and I don't think Saffron should have been here. It's great that Indigo Griffiths is back, but I think this should have just been a Doctor and Griminy Gru story, or maybe even a Doctor and Mrs. Crook story. Maybe you can still have this be a sequel, but this is an underling of the Griminy Gru who is, you know, wanting to fulfill its master's legacy or something. I think that's the way you could have gone about it. I'm so conflicted on this one, man. As just a story on its own, it's alright, it's fine. As a sequel to Station, half of it's bloody inspired and brilliant, and the other half is a really big letdown. It's a weird one. I do feel like in some capacity they have overthought it, but some of that overthinking has resulted in some really effective character moments. Some of that overthinking has really explored the dynamic of the Ninth Doctor, and the way Christopher Eccleston plays it is really, really something to behold. Really, really good stuff in this, but I just came away thinking that it feels malformed. It's kind of like a sloppy masterpiece. I think that phrase might be overselling it a little bit. I don't know, maybe I'm overthinking this one. Maybe I'm just bloody sick of the Powell Estate as a setting. This did not need to be another Powell Estate story. Absolutely bloody not. And also, if you told me a year ago when listening to Snare that the reason why the Doctor and Rose keep on coming back to the Powell Estate is because this would actually be a surprise sequel to Station, I would not have had that on my bingo card, and I do feel like it was a little bit of a narrative ass pull. It's like, oh, okay, we're just gonna bring back the Griminy Gru in part 6 of this story. Oh, this is actually what we've secretly been building to this whole time, even though we've had like no clues beforehand that this was going to be the Griminy Gru. Like, yeah, you can't pull the wool over my eyes here. Like I said, I'm really conflicted about this one, but thank God the Powell Estate arc is apparently over. The next story, Dark Tides, and then False Friends, like we're out of the Powell Estate, and good riddance. Like, watch them come back in the next story and we repeat this dance. Anyway, that was my complicated and all over the place opinions on the Ninth Doctor Adventures 13 O'Clock. I want to know your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button, hype the video, subscribe for more Doctor Who Big Finish reviews, including Ninth Doctor ones when they release. And folks, I'll see you all next time.